You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Oh my God, don't look now. Wolves beat a team they're supposed to. Fourth win in a row versus the lowly Nets tonight. Final score 105-90. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Jack Borman with me as always. Give him a follow on X at JaredBorman13. Jack, I guess they can't all be double OT thrillers every night, but nonetheless, Wolves win a game they're supposed to, and more importantly, too, they avoid losing Ant to an ankle injury that obviously had us all holding our breath there for a minute.
Yeah, no question. I think tonight was certainly you just take the win and go on to the next game. Given how they've played some of these teams before, it was not the prettiest game in the world, no. But they got the job done, and that's all that matters.
Yep, they all count the same in the standings. Dub's a dub. Lots to get into. Tonight's game MVP, biggest turning point, plus the Wolves playoff picture now with just 5 regular season games to play. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, again, so can't all be double OT thrillers. You hit the game winner with 0.1 seconds left, but alas, a win's a win. It was ugly at times. Wolves started 1 of 8 from 3, I believe, 8 turnovers at halftime. Low-scoring, kind of ugly shooting affair from both teams for a while. But, bottom line, again, big picture, they took care of business. They beat a bad team. They got their 4th dub in a row. And with just 5 games left to play before the playoffs, I guess that's all you can do, right? Play the team in front of you, 1 game at a time kind of mentality.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got to adopt that mentality and hang on to it, because they have the easiest schedule in the NBA coming down the stretch. Whereas, you look at teams like the Lakers and the Nuggets are both, 5-6 hardest left. And then the Grizzlies, Clippers, Nuggets are all, and Warriors are kind of, the Grizzlies, Clippers, and Warriors are kind of all in the middle of the pack, but still have a few tough games left. And that's super important. Tonight, the Wolves entered the game in the 6th spot, 2.5 games back of Denver and Los Angeles for the 4th spot, half a game back of Golden State for 5th. And they're even with Memphis and the Clippers. But the Wolves own the 3-way tiebreaker, which is combined win percentage, kind of round robin win percentage in that group. But because Ja Morant hit a game winner in Miami tonight, they moved back to the 7th spot because Memphis is 2-0 against the Wolves this season and have already clinched a tiebreaker. And reminder, those two teams will meet 1 week from tonight in Memphis on TNT. So that'll be a huge game nonetheless. But yeah, the Wolves now just 2 back of the Lakers and Nuggets. So they are definitely within reach. If either of those two teams have a slip up, and keep in mind, the Wolves are 4-0 against Denver. So that could be a 4-5 matchup. But also too, like if the Wolves and Denver end up, tied in the standings, like the Wolves would have that tiebreaker. So super important for the Wolves to just win all these games, because they should win every single game from here on in. They are, and for my money, a better team than every team that they will face from here on in. But yeah, big picture also really important that the Wolves had a couple of injury scares that they came out unscathed with. Obviously, Julius Randle knocked knees, and I think late in that first quarter had to come out of the game. Went back to the locker room, got checked out.
Making a 5-foot putt. The knee knockers. You know what I'm saying? When you get just a little nervous there. Granted, okay, this was a little more intense for sure.
Yeah, no question. And then I've watched a lot of. I've probably watched over 1,000 NBA games in my life. I've never once seen a player. I've never once seen a player really badly turn his ankle because a coach is walking towards where the player is shooting.
Never once.
On the bench.
Never seen it.
I've never seen something like that happen. Obviously, you've seen what happened with Mike Conley and Finch last year in Phoenix. That was something we'd also never seen, where a coach suffers a serious injury. But I just thought it was absolutely outrageous that Jordi Fernandez thought it was a good idea to walk towards Anthony Edwards while he was taking a shot there. And people will be like, oh, it was just an accident. And of course, there was no intent behind Jordi Fernandez doing that. But it's just like, dude, you got to pay attention.
Yeah, what are we doing?
you got to pay attention to what's going on, because after a player shoots a three, almost every single player has that little 2-step, 3-step back gallop and then goes on their merry way up the floor. So I think that he is certainly fortunate that Anthony Edwards did not suffer any type of serious ankle injury, because there would have been quite an interesting storyline in the Western Conference had that happened. So good that Ant was able to come away unscathed. Now, I just want to address one comment in the chat really from Eric. We jumped on this, Eric. The Wolves had a three-way tiebreaker. They were tied with Memphis and Los Angeles, the Clippers coming into tonight. And the Wolves had the three-way tiebreaker, which is collective win percentage against the other two teams you're tied with. But because they won and Memphis won, it's now a two-way tiebreaker between the Wolves and Memphis. And Memphis is 2-0 against the Timberwolves this season, and that is why Memphis is now the 6th and the Wolves are in the 7th spot.
Yeah, well said there. Good breakdown. Again, we are in crunch time, 5 games to play. Wolves 13 games above 500, though. First time all season, 45-32.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Jack, tonight's game MVP. Who was it and why?
Very simple one. Big Rue has been absolutely.
He's been cooking.
He's been cooking some fine French cuisine over here in the States. Over the last 5 games coming into tonight, had averaged 17 points a game on 66% shooting, and leading the NBA in both total rebounds at 15.4 per game and offensive rebounds at 5.6 per game. And added to all those numbers tonight, he had 21 points on 9 of 10 shooting. He had 18 rebounds. He had 2 blocks and was just utterly dominant the whole entire night in this game. And I think, again, Luke, we've done a lot of these shows over the last year and change here, and we've talked a lot about against these bad teams that the number one reason for my money why they have largely over the last couple of seasons, been able to win games against bad teams has been because Rudy Gobert has just really brought a floor-raising attitude and just a sense of, I need to be at my best, because there is a natural, slippage that comes with, playing a significantly inferior opponent. And tonight was another great example of Rudy Gobert just showing up with a super professional approach and just continuing to, just impose his will on an opponent on both ends of the floor. And I think what was most impressive for me tonight with Rudy has not necessarily been his defense, which has continued to be excellent all year long, but I think it's just the way that he's really been a factor offensively, right? We've talked about the offensive rebounding. Tonight when the Rudy Gobert was on the floor, they had an offensive rebound percentage of 32. So they rebounded about a third of their missed shots offensively. That would be a top 5 mark in the NBA if you extrapolated that out for a whole season. And when he was off the floor, it was about 22%, which would be, lower than the worst team in the NBA.
Wow.
And he had 4 offensive rebounds for 7 second chance points tonight. And I think on that point, it's also not necessarily how many offensive rebounds does he have, but when other teams have to commit 2 and sometimes 3 guys to Rudy Gobert because of his impact on the glass, it allows, Jaden McDaniels or Julius Randle to corner crash. It allows Mike Conley to kind of stick his nose in there on some of those, rebounds that might land just inside the free throw line. So that's been really important. But Rudy Gobert and not just pick and roll as a roller, which we know that he's obviously built a career off of that on the offensive end of the floor. But I think the biggest area that Rudy has grown as a player since coming to Minnesota has been his ability to play on the short roll. So when he sets a screen, starts rolling to the basket, catches the ball right around the free throw line or just inside the free throw line, that's an area where, sometimes we've seen Rudy do the little Euro step and finish. We've seen Rudy just kind of gallop and dunk. But the way that he's been able to catch the ball in the short roll and then make a cross-court pass, whether it be to the opposite slot, the opposite corner, has totally grown since he's come here. And tonight was on full display. He made several just really high-level passes. He only had 1 assist, but I would venture to guess that his potential assist number, passes that would have been assists to a shotgun, and was probably closer to 4 or 5. And he probably also had 3 or 4 more hockey assists too, where he threw a pass that then led to an assist on the ensuing pass. And I just think that completely unlocks the Wolves offense when he's able to be in the middle of the floor and able to be a playmaker is super important. And then in dunker spot as well, I think he's kind of gotten back to that a little bit more with Julius Randle and Naz Reid both, playing up top in the middle of the floor in the pick and roll game. So his ability to just kind of space the floor that way. And so if, Julius or Naz catches the ball on the roll, that, the guy that's guarding Rudy underneath the basket has to step up. Then you see those little dump off passes for dunks that have been so successful really over the last couple of weeks here as Rudy's really found a rhythm. So it's been really fun to watch him play. And then, of course, on the defensive end of the floor, he continued, to be his excellent self, right? I think, Claxton got credit for a lot of, buckets where Rudy was the nearest defender, but, pretty much everyone else had a tough time scoring right at Rudy Gobert overall tonight. So it was a really strong performance from him, and another kind of entry mark of him just dominating a really inferior team. And that's something that the Wolves will need going forward.
Yeah, I mean, great breakdown. You just nailed it as far as all the X's and O's. He looks like a more polished player top to bottom. I know you ripped off the last 5 game stats and how much he's dominated, but for me, after that Pistons scuffle, there has just been a new physicality, a new energy that he's been playing with that I don't think has always been his brand of basketball. It's definitely not his MO, being as big as he is. Some people have called him a little soft for just being how big, a guy like Rudy Gobert is. But there is just this new tenacity and energy I see him playing with down low. And it's almost like he's playing mad. He's playing a little bit meaner now. And you absolutely love to see it because
but in
when
a composed
that gets unlocked,
way, which is cool.
Yes, absolutely. A polished, smart way to play basketball, but still maximize my physical skill set. It has been a treat to watch for sure. Something that I just didn't see coming this late in the season. Plenty more deep dive from this one. We're going to get into the biggest turning point in this one. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return, $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you win your first $5 bet. Why I love FanDuel? When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed if you hit your first $5 wager. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get in some NBA future action while you're there. Naz Reid, 6 Man of the Year odds. Again, only 5 games left. Still sitting at 4-1. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
All right, Jack, turning point in this game tonight. Where did it happen and when?
Yeah, for me, it was when Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert re-entered the fourth quarter at the 10:07 mark. The Nets were just kind of hanging around at this point. And Chris Finch made a really smart decision to go back to Rudy and Ant at the same time. Rudy almost starts almost every single fourth quarter for the Timberwolves. I can't say that I really know why he didn't start this one tonight, because it was a very similar rotation pattern for him. It wasn't like there was foul trouble or he'd played the whole third quarter or anything like that. So I'm not sure why he didn't start it. But at any rate, their impact was just immediate when they checked back into the game. Rudy Gobert had an awesome defensive rep on the interior, defensively forced a miss on the first defensive possession, and then Ant got to the free throw line on the first offensive possession. Then what happens on the other end of the floor? Ant follows that up with a great contest that led to a short miss, and then there was a Rudy Gobert dunk on the other end. So there was a 6-0 run. There was another basket after that. There was a 6-0 run. I think it was a second Gobert dunk in a little bit more than a minute that sent the lead from 6 right back up to 12. And then that kind of snowballed into a 20-8 Wolves run that had them up 18 with a little bit more than 3 minutes to go. And then, the Wolves just kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit. But I still thought that was super important. Both guys just kind of checked back into the game and in their respective roles just kind of said, all right, let's put the kids to bed. And that's certainly what happened. Ant had 10 points in that little 6.5 minute spurt. Gobert had 2 dunks, and Nikhil played really well. We'll get into Nikhil in a little bit too. But yeah, I also thought that it was just part of a larger theme in the second half that the ball movement was a lot better and generated, more dunks on the inside, whether it be for Jaden or Nas or Rudy. And then, I also think it was important too that, this team struggled to shoot the 3 ball very well in the first half of this game, which was, somewhat problematic considering that more than half the Timberwolves shots in the first half, 24 of their 43 shot attempts came from beyond the arc, but they made just 6 of those 24. But 3 of them came in the final 3 minutes, and I'm pretty sure that they were all corner threes, which is important because the Wolves in the first half were 3 of 17 from above the break. And so generally, generating corner shots is kind of a canary in the coal mine of how well your offense is running, in a sense of, if you're able to get the ball in the middle of the floor, force the defense to collapse, spray it out to the corners, that's really great offense. I mean, and just generally speaking, outside of a layup or a free throw, a corner 3 is the most efficient shot in the NBA. So the more that you can, turn some above the break threes, I know the Wolves have been, right there in the top 3, top 4 all season long in above the break 3-point percentage. And they've actually, been a little bit worse in the corners this year. But, I still think that, when you've got corner shooters like the Wolves do, I think, anytime you can get Dante, Nas, Mike, corner 3-point looks, I think you'll take that every time. So that was certainly an important part. And yeah, like tonight, the Wolves 6 of 14 from the corners, 43%. They were just 7 of 28 above the break, 25%. So the more that they were able to get the ball movement, get those shots right at the rim and in the corners was great. And I think that their 2 best players had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, well said there. Naz Reid's first game back after that 1-game suspension. DDV's first game back after that 1-game suspension. DDV, ice cold, man. 0 of 6 from 3, 1 of 9 from the floor, just 2 points. You obviously hope that just a little bit of rust he's got to shake off. But on the other end, Nickeil Alexander-Walker following up that game-winning shot, obviously, versus Denver 2 nights ago, but closes the game again tonight. What did you see from those 2 guys? Kind of polar opposite nights.
Yeah, for sure. I liked what we saw just from Nas in general in this game. I liked that he kind of remained aggressive, didn't really play without outside of himself. Ended up having a solid night in terms of 13 points on 9 shots, 3 assists. You'll take that, and I like the way that he attacked. He was 4 or 5 from 2, which was good to see. And then with Nikhil and Dante, yeah, I mean, for Dante, last time he had a 3 or a game without a made 3 was November 26th against Houston. It's almost like 40 games, which was tough. And in the first half, he had 3 turnovers in that first half, which has been pretty rare for Dante because we've just heaped praise on him for the way that he's been able to just churn out these 4, 5, 6, 7 assist nights with 0 or 1 turnovers, but kind of got back into, what happened at the very start of the season when he was really struggling. It was a lot of over dribbling on attacks from the baseline, got caught in the air, dribbled into crowds in the middle of the paint and, tried to make passes that just weren't there because there wasn't anything else available. And so that was tough to just kind of see him playing in super crowded and congested areas. And I'm not worried about that long term. He's played so well that, I think sometimes when you get a situation where 2 guys are suspended, you play a little bit of a different rotation like they did in Denver. Sometimes it takes a game to adjust, and that's totally normal. So I have 0 concern about that going forward. And a lot of that too is because Nikhil's been just tremendous. He was awesome in that second half. He and Dante both equally struggled in the second half, and then I think Nikhil in that second half, I just thought again just played super composed, did a great job of just taking what the defense was giving him. Right, they're giving him open corner 3-point shots, so. he was willing to take those, made 2 of those threes, got fouled shooting a 3 again, which was crazy. And again, 10 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, all in the second half was fantastic. Doing that in just 13 minutes was great. And then he also had 2 blocks and a steal in that second half. So yeah, it was nice to see Chris Finch reward him with closing this game. And yeah, he's earned those minutes, and good to see him paying off Finchy for getting that role.
Yeah, stock pointing up for sure. Just feels like going back to last year in the playoffs as well. This is when maybe Nah flies under the radar a little bit. Feels like one of the odd mans out when you look at that deep bench. But going back to last year's playoff run as well, this is when he seems to be almost at his best. And he has improved so much defensively, offensively, you name it. On the court, IQ-wise as well, just overall awareness. It's been a treat to watch him grow and develop over the last couple of years for sure. A couple minutes left. I just want to ask you about the 76ers. That team, they face Saturday night, 6:30 p.m. tip, I want to say. That's all coming up, though, right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by BetterHelp. When your schedule gets packed with work projects, kids, whatever it may be, it's easy to let your priorities start to slip, even when we know what makes us happy. But when you feel like you got no time for yourself, the non-negotiables like therapy, they become more important than ever. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, maybe it's time to give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. It's so simple, too. All you got to do, you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched up with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Go visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today. You're getting 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, just real quick, 76ers up next, Saturday, 6 p.m. tip. That'll be game 3 of 5 in a row. They play on the road. Confidence level for that, I know at the top you mentioned all 5 of these last teams, you feel like the Timberwolves are the better team. How much of a better team do you think they are than the 76ers on paper right now going into this one?
About as far of a gap as there could possibly be. The Sixers are down Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid. They have a worse record than the Nets. If you'd have told me that at the start of the year, I would have laughed you out of the room.
It's crazy.
But that's the reality. Last week, they set an NBA record for the most unique starting lineups used in a single season with 52. Their most recent starting lineup the other night was Lonnie Walker, Quentin Grimes, Ricky Council IV, Justin Edwards, and Adem Bona. None of those guys were in an NBA rotation on Christmas Day, and yet all 5 of them are now starting for the Sixers. So should be a very easy win. Just some things you'd like to clean up. Some free throw shooting that the Wolves, 67% tonight, not great. 18 turnovers for 20 Nets points. 22% of Brooklyn's points came off of turnovers, so that's an area that certainly has to improve. But should be a game that's even easier than what they had tonight. So we'll see what happens.
All right, let's end with one quickie, a fun one. Let's just say Julius, he opts out. If you can only keep one, do you keep Nah or Nas? Now, Nas is going to cost you what? As you've told me, about 30 mil-ish. We don't know if he can be a 35-minute kind of guy tonight, do we? Nah, probably a lot more affordable, a lot cheaper. Maybe it takes less money to stay here. And obviously, we've seen what a glue guy he can be. I'm putting you on the spot. I'm just curious. Let's have some fun with this.
Really tough. I think you have to go with Nas just because the offensive ceiling is a lot higher. His connection to the fan base, certainly. He's a guy that came in with Anthony Edwards. He's incredibly close with Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, the 2 guys that are on the long-term timeline. And it's not any type of slight at Nikhil. I just think it's
you don't like
Nikhil.
Think about, wow, dude, on record, we're live.
Yeah, I mean that's my guy. But
I know.
But yeah, I think you'd go with him just because the potential there is higher, and having a longer salary slot is somewhat important. And yeah, I think also too when you consider that you have Dante long term, you have Rob coming up, and Terrence Shannon, like some of those guys, they just don't have as much depth in the front court.
Yeah, No, 100% agree. It's going to be really interesting, though, to see how this offseason ends up playing out, especially with a first-round pick now in their lap as well. That's pretty cool.
And they'll have like one of the first 2 or 3 picks of the second round because they have the Jazz's second-round pick.
Love that. Love that. When you talk second round, I think of my guy Leonard Miller. What's going on with Leonard Miller nowadays? Still a thing? Still a guy? What's going on?
Still a guy. Not going to be playing anytime soon, though.
All right, fair enough. We'll end on that. T-Wolves take care of business. 4th win in a row. Final versus Brooklyn, 105-90, 45-32 on the year. As always, huge shout out to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game. Make sure you like and subscribe. Keep up with all the action. Go follow Jack at Jared Borman 13, live from the Target Center. More games than not. Again, Sixers. That's up next on Saturday. It's a 6 p.m. tip. We'll catch you right here. Same time, same place. But until then, signing out.